Well, I'm very grateful to Leslie Ellis for coming this morning. It's 3 hours earlier than New York, so we're talking like 5 in the morning. So it's very generous of her to share her presence with us, and I just want to acknowledge the fact that it's because we have invited many people on the West Coast, and for them it hasn't been possible. So it is very generous of Leslie to be with us and give a program on reflecting with dreams. I just want to mention briefly that in terms of coronaplaza.life, that on Saturday, if you have any interest in social justice, we're offering a series of 4 programs. And this Saturday, we'll kick off the first one with our 2 team leaders on Jonathan Stoll and Jason Brissett. We'll talk about their work and how it impacts all of us. So thank you. And Lynn, you can begin.
Well, I want to welcome you also, and I'm so looking forward to hearing our presentation about dreams. And so grateful to Leslie for coming from the West Coast. We, in having this time, at this time, often have to sacrifice our West Coast people, and that's really too bad. So we're very grateful to have Leslie come. I just want to announce that on March 11th from 9:30 to 10:30, we are going to have a meeting of our young focusing leaders. The millennial helpers will meet from 9:30 to 10:30 New York time. And we're hoping that all of the younger members of our group will meet with us and give us input about what will be most helpful and what we can learn from them. This came out of, actually, this idea came out of the Celebrate Jane birthday party. And we talked about how we need to learn from and engage our younger leadership. So we're going to have a committee, and we're forming a circle of leaders who will help to design how our year 2 will look. And Robert's in that group, and Frida and Kathy McCoy, and we're welcoming anybody else who would like to be part of that group, to sort of like a steering committee to make our Help the Helpers in the second year more community-based and more input from you people. Okay, I guess we'll turn it over to Leslie, right, Melinda? Anything else? Anybody else have any announcements? I think we're all set then.
Okay, so I'm so pleased to be here, and I am an early riser, so this is not completely unusual for me to be up. Maybe it's 6 I get up, not 5, but it's not a drastic change for me to get up early like this. And I wanted to support. This is a wonderful thing that you're doing, Lynn and Melinda. So I am just really happy to be here, and you know, there's so many things I could say about dreams, and so I'm trying to keep it into a little bit of a, you know, just a couple things I can say and give you an experience. And what I wanted to just start with is just noticing how in my world I'm mainly teaching and working with dreams right now and writing about them. So I'm kind of immersed in this world, and that there really has been a qualitative shift in not just dreaming, but also awareness of dreaming since the pandemic. And interestingly, it particularly affects women. The dreams of women are the most changed, more anxiety, a lot more nightmares, specifically for women. And I think it just reflects the fact that the pandemic has hit women in general quite a bit harder. And so it's showing up in dreams. And I just thought I'd mention that there's a lot of people who've been doing research, both qualitative and quantitative, on how much more we're dreaming, how much more we're remembering our dreams. And yeah, it's an interesting thing that it's women's dreams that have been changed the most. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an attunement, and in the process, I'll invite you into an attunement that will bring you an image. And then later on, when we break up into our groups, you can have a chance to work with that image as if it were a dream. And this is what I do whenever people tell me they don't have a dream to work with, or they don't remember their dreams. And in the exercise later, you could also bring a dream, but I just wanted everybody to start with a living image to refer to as I talk a little bit more about the fluid nature of this dream realm. So to start with, though, I want you to just get comfortable and settled in your body, and in the way that you do when you're focusing. And so it means, yeah, just settling into your chair, feeling the weight of the support underneath you, and taking a minute just to settle into your body. And then just start to take just a half a minute to clear space, or to create an open space internally. So just setting aside anything that really distracts you or doesn't really need to be present in this moment. And just take a few breaths into your torso and see if you can create an open space. And I'll give you a little bit of silence to do that in whatever way that you like to do that. So now just with that, whatever kind of space you've created, whatever quality that has, just bring it into kind of your mind's eye, like a blank slate or an empty space, something that's open and invitational. And then start to allow an image to form. A living image is the only descriptor I'll give you, just something alive. And feel it start to fill the space that you've made, and let it arrive spontaneously. Something might come right away, or it might take a little time. Just invite a living image and welcome whatever comes. And as you start to see an image form or have an image, start to fill in a little bit of the background, the details. Notice what environment this image is in. Notice the weather, the landscape. See if you can hear anything, smell anything. Involve as many senses as you can. Brings it more to life. So start to notice in this living image what's alive, what it is that came, that has this life force. And without working too hard at this, just if it's available, just see if there's something it's bringing you. There's you know, a reason it showed up right here and now. And just if that's easy, I don't want you to push to interpret, but see what it has to offer you, just right at the outset. And if it feels good, maybe maybe you can find a felt sense of um, that life force and what it's bringing. And then just start to take your leave of this image or carry it with you if it feels good to do that. And so slowly start to bring your attention back up out of this dream space and into the Zoom room. So I'm hoping that you have felt visited by something wonderful. And I would like to hear, there's too many of you to go around and ask everybody, but I would invite one or two of you to share an image that came. And I can start by telling you that the first thing that came was this black bird, which very often comes when I do this. And this one was a falcon, one that I had seen actually here the other day. And its eyes were very bright. And it was, it had this felt sense of watching over. It was circling very high up, and it felt comforting, protective, and like it was watching over is the phrase that came. So that was my image. I'm just wondering if anyone else would like to put their image out there to share with us.
I also had birds, although not one, but a number of juncos pecking at the snow. I have lots of snow here, pecking at all the seeds on top of the snow that we've spread.
Nice.
I'm happy to go for a moment. I had an image of a blue dragonfly, and I've got an eco pool, and it's sort of slightly troubling, but it's I saw a dragonfly earlier flying some plants in the pool, and this dragonfly is so bright. There's such a beautiful energy. It's a bright blue dragonfly, and I think there was something about water, even though it's difficult to, this pool has its ups and downs, it's pool and pond, but its sense of the dragonfly is just a lot of life. Behind it is my house with all the heaviness I have to carry around my house, but there's this dragonfly, and it's a healthy environment. It's like it's healthy, a dragonfly and frogs.
Thank you. Maybe one more. Is that William?
Yes. Is it okay to have an abstract image? I've been contemplating lately duende and when do I feel most alive? And it's in a conversation. So I have this picture of me in a conversation with all of my senses alive and feeling very full and alive in that environment. Any conversation. No, not anyone. A good one. That counts, right?
That counts. Everything counts here. There's nothing, there's no wrong image, and that sounds very affirming. Phyllis is, wait.
Yeah, okay, I should change my name here to Ayana, but
Oh, sorry.
no. So I saw a path, and on both sides of the path, there was a being, you know, planting bright seeds so that things could grow.
Wow, that's so generative. Wonderful. Thank you. I'd love to hear them all, but I don't want to, it would take the whole time, and I want to talk a bit more about something I've discovered recently in a dream work session that I want to share. But I'm hoping that you got the sense that this could be like a dream. And they're really, you know, the researchers I work with, they're trying to pin down the nature of dreams and having no real success because dreams seem to, they're very hard to pin down. And what they're now saying is that we're, you know, probably always dreaming in the background, not just when we're sleeping. And that makes real sense to me. And so we can tap into that level of experiencing at any time. And when we're sleeping, they're just, I'm getting warm here. There's a different quality of dreaming because of the nature of our mind when we're sleeping. We don't remember things very well. Our executive functioning doesn't work very well. So there's sometimes confusion in dreams or inability to act in a way that we normally would, but otherwise they're coming from the part of our mind and body that comes alive when we stop having focused attention and lets these associations flow, and the associations become looser and wider, so we're more creative, and so I think that level of dreaming is always accessible. So what this was an invitation to a little mini dream, just to put you in the dream space as we talk about this. So one thing I'm just going to do is talk about what we can do with dreams that are difficult, because a lot of people are having difficult dreams, and I really look at every dream kind of as is there somebody that needs to be muted? I can hear something in the background.
Yes, please mute yourselves if you're not already.
There we go. That's better. Yeah, there was some sound that was. I'm just going to talk about a dream, and actually I'm going to play it for you if it will work, because this is a dream that really is it's a nightmare, and I want to show that even nightmares are not always what they seem. And I've been studying nightmares and treating nightmares quite intensively in the last while, and I find that even these dreams that seem very challenging and difficult have something to offer us, and that they're trying to help us live forward. And this is maybe going to give you some ideas about that. And so I'm just going to see if I can play it. Let me know if you can hear this. If not, I can just read
Your
it.
dream.
Okay.
Sounds like you have had for dinner.
Can you all hear
Yeah,
that?
I mean, I don't, it's not a dream, but I didn't get up and write it down, but it stayed with me, and it's quite short. So I can just tell you what I remember. It was a few weeks ago.
Here's the dream.
I dreamt it was sometime mid-afternoon, and I was walking through the streets of Dublin. I was pulling one of these like wheelie case bags, like an overnight bag. And I was pregnant, quite pregnant, maybe 5-6 months pregnant. And I had a very sore leg. One leg was very swollen but injured, maybe or maybe just very, very swollen. And I was walking through the streets. I think it was kind of dark and rainy, kind of a midwintery type day. And I phoned my mother. I always phone my mother in my dreams. And I said to her, I'm going back to the hotel. I'm just really tired, and I need to put my feet up. And she said, great, I'm glad. And so I walked back to this hotel, and I went into the lobby, and I met two couples who were people that I had grown up with in Ireland. or like part of the community that I'd grown up with, but not close friends. Maybe people who are like friends with my brother or my sister, not my immediate friends. And I kind of said hi and something about, oh, you're back too, or something like that. And I weaved through them, and it was very crowded in the lobby and whatever. And I went to the elevator. And I got into the elevator, and then this man got in. I think he got in after me. And I smiled, and he smiled. And now I don't remember if we had any conversation, but at some stage, he lifted up his arm and he sprayed something in my face. And I was very shocked. But then I realized that it was some kind of a drug, and I couldn't speak. And he took me by the arm, he dragged me out of the elevator, and he took me into some, I don't know if it was a room or a, like I don't know if it was a service room or a hotel room. And I had this sensation of like, I wanted to say, I'm pregnant, what are you doing? You know, and there were all these things I wanted to say, and I couldn't say anything because it was like one of these, like date rape drug things.
Yeah, where you just like help with.
So it was like I was drunk, I couldn't walk properly, and he kind of lifted me under, like put his arm under my arm and dragged me into this room. And I was trying to talk, and then he raped me.
Oh, wow.
And it was, the truth is, I don't remember if the dream went as far as the rape or if it was just him trying to, but it was clear that I was completely powerless. I couldn't speak, it made no sense. All I wanted to do was rest, and I was trying to say, you can't possibly be doing this. I'm pregnant, I'm injured, you know, you have to stop this. What are you doing? Why are you doing?
Yeah.
And that's it, and that's how I woke up.
So that's the dream I'm going to talk about, and the dream work that I did with that. And what I've been doing with all the dreams that I work with since really, you know, maybe for at least a decade or so, is to first of all, to find the help in the dream. Jen Lynn's idea of finding help in a dream has really changed the way I do dream work, because I used to maybe start chronologically or with the most intense image. And when I started incorporating focusing into my dream work, I really adopted Jen Lynn's idea that every dream carries some help that will enable us to work with whatever the dream is bringing us and to find a way forward. And so, ever since I've been doing that, what I've noticed is that when you ask someone to find and embody the help in a dream, it is as though there's something that shifts in them that enables them to see the dream differently. And Jen Lynn would say, well, if you don't sort of embody the help or do something to shift the state, then you'll interpret the dream and view it the way you always did. But that every dream has this generative quality. And I wanted to use a dream like this one because it doesn't seem so positive. And yet what happens in this dream work session is quite uplifting at the end and transformational. And the dream kind of changes as we work with it, which is another thing I've been discovering, is that dreams are very much a living text. They're not static. So this dream that sounds quite violent and difficult, I would step back and first of all, just look for the places in this dream where there is something helpful for the dreamer. And so I do ask about the people in the lobby, and they aren't people that really are helpful to her. They're sort of friends of her brother's, people that didn't really give her the time of day, but they do turn out to be significant, and I'll show you that later. And then her conversation with her mother was helpful, and then I asked her about Dublin, which is her hometown. And she feels like that is a source of help, that she has a familiarity and comfort with this place, that she knows where she's going, she knows her way around. And so what I do is ask her to embody that sense of feeling like she really knows where she is and her way around, her environment. And so she has a felt sense of that confidence that I ask her to carry with her as we inquire into the dream. And then I ask her to feel into being pregnant, because pregnancy can often be not literal pregnancy, but very often it's a creative process or a creative product that's being gestated. And she said, yes, this pregnancy was, this dream happened during this time that was writing a book. And she said that she didn't know if she was actually pregnant, but there was she was visibly pregnant and had a heavy stomach, and that it might well have to do with her book writing, which was a little bit stalled out. She was having some doubts about who am I to be writing this book? You know, I know I had that same feeling when I wrote my book. It's probably very common with authors to feel this crisis of confidence. And so she said that this pregnancy was kind of felt like it was reluctant to be born, and that it brought up a lot of insecurity that she normally doesn't carry, but that seemed to be with her. So already you can see that the dream is starting to have a little different sense that this pregnancy is not all it seems. And so I look at everything like that, even something like this, you know, rapist in the elevator. I think, okay, if I remove my judgment about that scene and just be open and curious to it, it might be something other than it appears as well. And so I'm just going through here to, I ask her to find a sense of this dream, of this dream pregnancy. And she says that it has this embracing connection to her. It's kind of like a koala bear, just holding her around her body. And she said it feels like a warm holding. It's not actually a bear, but it feels like a warm holding. So this then becomes another place where there's help in the dream. And so I ask her to carry that too, because with a dream where something really challenging happens, it's good to pick up all the resources that you can. I think of it a little bit like trauma work, in that when we're working with a difficult trauma situation, we want to invite our, you know, I do, a person to hold as many internal resources as possible, and so that they can feel bolstered and held in the face of what might be a really frightening material. So then I'm just going through, I've got the dream transcribed here, so I'm just going through to see if there's something that important to play or to tell you about. So then I invite her to talk about the actual rape scene in the dream. And she said, it's like he has all the power and she has none, and she feels like she has no voice. And then there's something about just how decisive he is. And so what I do is I ask her to embody this person in the elevator, which, because she is quite comfortable at going in and out of imaginal spaces, she can sort of feel into this character. And from the inside, what she gets is not malice, but a sense of decisiveness, of strength, of doing what needs to be done, and without hesitation, without emotion. And there's something in that for her that feels like a piece that she can pick up that's helpful, because she's been stalled out and just kind of, she said maybe treating herself as if she's too precious, or something to that effect, where she doesn't just isn't able to just put her work out there in a sure-footed kind of way. And somehow this character has some pieces for her that she can embody and will help her, is what she comes to. And so I ask her to think about maybe holding this part of her that's pregnant but silenced, and this sort of powerful force, because it's implied that she's being raped. And I think of any form of sexual act as some kind of a union, and to bring the union of these opposites, a Jungian idea, together, and just see what happens if we do that, these very much opposite places. And she sees them as two different parts of herself. And she says, this is it. She says, here's what she said. I'll just
I guess just do take more action and not be so. But what occurs to me now is like not be so careful of myself. Like not to have to take care of myself in that way, and that kind of coveting, you know, oversensitive, you know.
So she feels like she's been almost coddling herself and needs to be more decisive. That's what she takes from this part of the dream. And then she goes on to say that, you know, maybe I was asking her about the level of violence, because it's quite extreme. And she said, it's as though some part of her is dying in that moment, and that for something to be born, something has to die. And so then this becomes, instead of a rape scene, it becomes a transformation. And what then she says later is really interesting, which is that she said, as she's telling the dream, although not in the dream, as she's telling it, there's another person there outside the elevator watching. There's a watcher, and she is the watcher. She, with this koala bear wrapped around her, is then watching the scene in the elevator, and she's no longer in it. And it's as though her life force and everything that she's about is now outside of that scene. And she said that part of her, the pregnant woman being raped in the elevator, or is actually gone completely. I asked her to find it again, and she said, no, in that moment, I'm literally not there. And it wasn't like that in the dream. What I find really interesting is that it was in the telling of the dream that this happened. So I was going to play this little piece, because I find this so interesting, and it ends up being one of the keys to this dream. And so this is what she says here.
Ever since we started talking about it, I had the sensation that there was another person there. Like outside of the elevator, on the right-hand side at the end of the corridor, it was me with the koala bear around me, watching it all happening.
Oh, okay.
It felt like, I mean, I didn't experience that in the dream, because I was in the process of that death.
Yes.
But I've been talking about it. It's like every time when I got inside the pregnancy, I felt like I was standing beside the exit door at the end of that corridor where the elevator opened, and I was being pulled out as if I was a spectator.
Oh, interesting. So you are also the watcher, and as the kind of the death process happens, you become more outside of it.
So interesting, that little piece. I feel like this kind of thing happens in dream work a lot, where when we start working with a dream experientially, the dream comes back to life. And then a bit later on, I say something like, what happens is the dream might be a snapshot of what we're carrying, the emotions and the issues of that particular time. And then we worked with this dream several weeks later, and I had this idea, because at first she thought, oh, maybe it's that you know, the inability to speak or my stuckness is what died so that I could move forward and write and be creative. But when she felt it, didn't feel like, oh, that's it. You know, it felt like a very pat interpretation. It felt like maybe it would be nice if that was how it fit together, but it didn't feel like the right, in her body, the right description of what was really happening. So I said something like, maybe what's going on here is that since you've had the dream, things have evolved. And now, as we work with the dreamscape is catching up to where you are right now. So it's not quite the same anymore. The dream has its own life and it's lived forward. And now we're finding where the dream is alive in you in this moment. And this idea, I feel like, it feels very profound to me. So here's a little section where I talk about, where I basically suggest this, and then the dreamer, it helps her to, she suddenly understands what the dream is about. So I'll just play this little passage here.
Simple story like that. And what I think has happened is that the dream itself was referring to a time that, you know, it's still alive in you, but it's changed since the dream. And so now there's this feeling about the dream where there's you as the watcher. And so if you entertain this idea that this dream has continued in your absence, it's carried forward. Just without thinking about it too much, just ask, where are we now? Where's this scenario now? Where are you and the rapist, the cold bear, all of that? What does it look like?
Oh, I think I get it. You know, I felt very comfortable and yet somehow heavy and powerless and needing to be taken care of as I walked through the streets of Dublin with an injured leg and a heavy stomach. Mm-hmm. And then I ran into the people that always made me feel like I was nothing. Mm. That's what's dying.
Mm. Wow, I just got a chill. That usually signals something.
So it's the death of the uncertainty of, you know, am I good enough? Am I smart enough? Am I creative enough? Which is what I always felt in that environment. Mm. And it's the freedom to just go away. Let it go.
So that is the major felt shift that happens, and so surprising that she that these people in the lobby that she ran into were actually the key to the dream. And I always say, you know, in dreams that there's no extraneous details or unimportant characters. And so even though they didn't seem that important at the beginning, they in fact are the key to the dream, because they the way they treated her in her youth and her adolescence represents and echoes how she was feeling in her uncertainty around her book. And that that realization was enough to shift it, to notice that this part is dying. And then I ask her, you know, just to kind of feel into so a bit later the what she's left with, and I'll just play this little part.
And as I walk away, as that observer walks away, I don't have a foreleg. You know, I don't have a swollen foot. I'm not carrying a bag. I'm not even sure I'm still pregnant. It's like, yeah, I mean, maybe I am. I certainly was when I was watching. I'm not sure if I am when I walk away. I think it's gone. So maybe the book is the gift. Mm-hmm. To honor that person that was buried, you know, that was annihilated, not buried, just killed,
vaporized somehow,
sent to the darkness. You know, it's just like there was no signs. It was just gone.
So what's that like? for you, just if you check inside right in this moment, to have that be gone.
It feels light. It's hard to feel into it because it just feels so shocking and so clear, like it never was. I mean, I couldn't ever have imagined that, and yet it does feel like that's what it was. And the more I think about the observer, the person watching, myself, I kind of see myself, you know, skipping down the road, like just this lightness, and there's definitely no pregnancy. It's gone. And there's just this spaciousness and freedom and lightness.
So that is kind of where we leave it. And I wanted to play this example because there's such light in what's such apparent darkness at the beginning. You probably listen to this dream with a feeling of, oh my goodness, this is heavy and difficult. And often dreams have this way of presenting themselves, especially when they're about something that needs to transform. I think that dreams that are most transformational often appear as nightmares. And but you can see that the entire landscape of the dream has shifted for her. It's now, in fact, a very good dream that's filled with light. And so it is an example of, I think of how fluid dreams can be, and how to keep an open mind and work with them in the moment. And I believe that every dream does bring us some way forward. And so I wanted to bring a dream that really didn't look like it was all that promising, just to show you how incredibly transformative a dream like this can be. And I'll kind of let that speak for itself. There's so many things I could say, but I want to give you time to ask questions, and then try an exercise I'll give you. So I'm just wondering if there's any comments or questions or offerings about that anybody will care to share.
Again, we always encourage you to just unmute yourself, and anything that you have to say is welcome. And especially the new people, the people who don't speak as often, plus all of you who do speak.
I just want to say it was a really beautiful presentation. A lot to think about.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm struck by two things. One is like the drastic difference in the polarity of what it seems like the dream is about. Even as I tune into the felt sense of that, like I never would, like I don't think I've ever had any kind of focusing session that something like that shifted into something so forward moving. Not just that, like I was in a forward, but like at the end of it, there's this whole new movement at the end of it. And that just like, I was like, what? So that was like, whoa. And the other thing I was, well, I guess on that, I'm just like, how do you think about this? It doesn't seem like it's either reinterpreting the dream, and it also doesn't seem like it's like it discovered like that interpretation was already built into the dream. It seems like it's some dance thing that happened in the interpretation, in the looking of it. Something also happened. And I was like, what's that? That's, yeah. I'll leave it at there. That seems like the most interesting thing.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll say one more thing. I also really appreciated your energy, the way that you held this space. It didn't, like, I imagine as someone who's not experienced as many of the people here in holding the space for that person, I might have added like a extra caretaking kind of energy, and the way that you held that felt very like beautifully loving and neutral and curiosity at the same time.
Wow, yeah, both excellent points. And I think your questions are at the crux of what I'm trying to say and show actually. And the first is the just the neutral, curious way of being with the material. And I find that that is how I now am with dream work, having worked through many horrific dreams and gory scenes and really seen them to be not always what they appear. I don't treat them as though there's something that has to be tended any differently than any other aspect of the dream. Sometimes the most positive things in the dream turn out to be quite frightening, and sometimes, so the opposite can always be true of images. So I try not to really have any prejudgment about any of the images, except that maybe there might be powerful images, like the rape in the elevator sounds terrible, but I just think of it, well, there's a lot of energy there, and I'm curious. And when I observe it in that way, it also invites the dreamer to step back and be curious. And so they end up feeling a little more like they can approach it without fear. And then the other part about the dream interpretation being kind of a living co-created process is exactly my point, that the dream text isn't written down as though it's something that you then like, I think it's a very old-fashioned way to work with a dream, to take a text and then offer an interpretation as though the dream is just frozen in that moment in time, and you can just pull out the symbols and tell someone, I think it means this, or ask them what they think it means, when in fact, I find that a lot of the mystery in the dream is really only going to be solved by the dreamer, first of all. They're the ones who are holding this image and having a lived experience of it. And that anything that feels like they don't understand what it means or what it's about, or why it's in their dream, if they go into it and re-experience it and try it from different angles, like from becoming the dream element itself, for example, then the dream kind of will speak back, and it will also catch up to this moment. That part I found was really interesting, that the dream from weeks ago isn't the same today. If I have this issue that the dream was bringing up, things had shifted for the dreamer since the dream. And all of this becomes apparent if you just, I call it like walking through a dream or surfing a dream, but not necessarily treating it as if it's written in stone. And then, yeah, it becomes.
Excuse me, Inky, could you please mute yourself? I'm sorry, Leslie.
That's okay, yeah.
I just wish she could mute herself. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm almost done here, but I'm just saying that it becomes like an emergent process that is really more than the dream, original dream, and includes the focusing process. So my presence, I think, also adds a level of invitation, comfort. And so, yeah, I think those are just great observations, and you really honed in on the very most important things I wanted to demonstrate with this. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Leslie. Do you mind if I ask a follow-up question?
No, not at all.
Like, has the way that you learn to do this dream work, both in that, like, not over tending because you know things can, the most scary things or the most negative things can actually be quite the opposite. Has this changed the way that you do the process of focusing itself, like not in dream work?
Yeah, for sure. I think they're not that different. Honestly, I think that focusing is a way of entering into the living dream world and allowing that flow. And I feel like it enables me to be present with whatever comes in a way that is really open. And I know that that is inherent in focusing, and Jenlin would have said, always be, friendly with whatever comes. But having worked with in dreams with, sometimes the images in dreams are so over the top intense and difficult, and finding that even these images have potential for transformation. In fact, they seem to have more potential for transformation has made me, be able to sit with whatever comes in a focusing way as well, with this patient, curious, not alarmist kind of way of being. And it really helps the focuser to feel more that way themselves. But yeah, I would say yes, the short answer, yes.
Thank you.
So maybe one more comment or question before we head off to our groups.
I
Thank
want
you for
to be the last comment, but I did want to say that I loved your presentation, Leslie, and it underscored for me the idea that we are interaction and that there's nothing that's a kind of entity. And so the dream and the dreamer and the companion are all part of the interaction. And I think that the dream meaning would be very different with a different person, with a different um, therapist, helper. And the dreams have multiple meanings as a living interaction. And I love that idea that all focusing, that Jonathan, you brought up, that all focusing is a dream, you know, in a sense. We're entering into the implicit, and the dream is the implicit in the night. And Leslie, you had said where there's always this level of dream that's happening. I love that.
Thank you, Lynn. So in the small groups, what I'm going to invite you to do is maybe I don't know how much time do you allow? About 20 minutes or so before? I'm not familiar with how this.
Lynn, what time should we come back? 25, I mean 35 after, or?
Yeah, I would say 35 after.
Okay, and usually you divide us up into groups of 4, you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
So each person will have a few minutes, like 3 or 4 minutes, and then the group can interact as a whole. So we want to just make sure that each person has a chance to share and bring up anything that's there for them, and that then there's a little closure. We'll give you a few minutes warning before the end, unless there's a particular thing, Leslie, I think there was, that you wanted us to do.
What I was going to do was, and this is an invitation, obviously you can use the time however feels best to you in your small groups, but one thing I would invite you to do is to share your image that came, and then, you know, if the group can hold that space and invite the dreamer, I'll call you the dreamer in this case, to embody the felt sense of what came, to see if there's some helpful energy that brought you that you want to carry forward in this day, because I feel like the images that came to you just now.
Using an image from a dream, or the image that we came to us in the first part?
You can choose whatever feels like the most interesting to you in this moment. You can use the image that came, or bring a dream image and see what comes from that. It's totally up to you.